LaVar, look, man, I'm not trying to bring up old stuff, all right, but when people think Washington football team / Commandos / a team's name who we can't say on the air, else we might get fired, they think about LaVar Arrington. Like, they think about Sticks. They think about number 2 overall. They think about 3 Pro Bowls. Like, they think about RFK Stadium. They think about...
It's funny. I never played in RFK.
Well, listen, but it's
I'm certainly not the first thing you think about when you think about that team. But,
okay. Well, you may not be thinking about Daniel Snyder anymore because apparently...
You're 100% thinking about Dan Snyder when you hear that name.
Well, you might not for very much longer because...
it's not famous. You got to add in. You got to add that IM before you say famous.
Yeah, the U.S. House Oversight and Reform Committee said that they basically have discovered years of shady activity on the ticket front and the distribution.
How would you define shady?
Well, millions of dollars in security deposits, being kept away from people that probably would like to have that money at some point, and then also 2 different financial books were being kept. There was one that was shown to the NFL. Showing their shared revenue. But then there was another one, and by the way, that included underreported numbers, so they didn't have to report everything. And then there was a second book that was shown to just Daniel Snyder. So basically they were stealing. And people are seeing this. The reporting on it is pointing to, well, this may be what we're looking at here. So dead man walking could be for Daniel Snyder, not literally, but figuratively, because we've been wondering what was it going to take for the final nail in the coffin of his time as an NFL owner, and it looks like this may be it. So
you know what? For me, I just want an apology. All of these things coming out. I literally was the first one that spoke on what was going on. And I don't want to pat on the back. I don't need to think about if I could file a lawsuit against this guy, against the team. I love the city, love the fans, always loved the team. I just didn't like the way the owner did business. And I talked about it. And you know what? There were so many things that happened, right? So many things that were said about me, the way things were handled with the media, the way Joe Gibbs handled things, the way Greg Williams handled things, everybody was getting in on just having this dismissive, I'm upset because I'm not playing. I'm too dumb to learn a playbook. There's all these things being said over a contract situation that I didn't have anything to do with. I just would like to have an apology. Like I would love to have an official public apology because you know what? It strained my relationship with the city. It in a lot of ways, it derailed my career because I didn't want to play anymore. It was so difficult dealing with those conditions. It took the love, it sucked the love out of you to want to go to work every day and want to get better and want to get right. It was a difficult task, a difficult challenge. And I'm sure a lot of people have shared those sentiments for a really, really long time. We were talking, I heard the promo on, with Doug Gottlieb talking about the class action lawsuit and the complaints that were taking place and different things like that. Honestly speaking, the class action lawsuit that should have been taking place should have been Washington, then known as that team. It should have been employees of that place. And it's like for the longest time, it's everyone else. It's always something else. It's always everyone else. And now it's starting. I don't know why it's Daniel Snyder. I don't, because it's not like I'm the only player that's ever complained about an organization or complained about how they were treated or talked about it. I don't want to say I was complaining. I shed light on it. But it would be interesting to know or try to figure out, why is all of this coming out on him? It just seems to be piling up. It's a snowball effect, and it just makes me wonder, for all these years that I've watched it take place, it's taking place. For me, I saw it early on in the early 2000s, but it was about like 2003, 2004 where it got really, really interesting, and you started really being able to see it. I'm just wondering, why now is it such an intensified approach or focus on Daniel Snyder? I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot there. It feels like the perfect storm from all angles, from whatever, when it was your time and things that you saw, witnessed, or RG3, other players who've talked about it. Now leading in from some things in regards to the cheerleaders, whether it's the team name, it's just always something. I think the most definitive sign should have been where minority owners won it out. How many minority owners of NFL franchises do you hear that literally won out, are asked to being bought out, are trying to get out any way they can from the situation? I don't know anyone who is a minority owner of an NFL franchise that's trying to get out. I remember there was a guy who was a minority owner for the Rams. And this is back when we were in St. Louis. And I don't know when he got in or how much he had in it. Never had the chance to meet him, but I remember he was always walking around. He's so happy to be there. So happy to be a part of the team and to have a stake. It couldn't have been much, I'll put it that way. He was a very down-to-earth, seemed like a nice guy. But people aren't running away from having a stake, majority, minority, whatever it is, in an NFL franchise. And you had minority owners who were behind the scenes running in the opposite direction. That's just unheard of. It really is unheard of in the NFL, let alone most professional sports. So I think that was some of the tea leaves to there was a bigger issue here. And, those guys weren't going to try to be in the crossfire of little Danny Snyder. But, now there's everyone's kind of surrounding him. And there's really nowhere for him to go. This will be it. And this franchise will most likely have to be sold. It seems extremely damning, and it seems like there's too much at this point for him to be able to overcome.
Just skimming money, just holding, two different, accounting books. The whole thing. There was somebody who described it, said, you listen to the details of how this whole operation was run. It sounds like something off The Godfather. It was so shady.
So here's the hard part is when you have to report, if you're a publicly traded company, right, and you've got to report what you send into the IRS and what you actually feed out to shareholders, to the market, could technically be two different financial reports and statements and how you prepare them. So keep that in mind in regards to with publicly traded companies. Now, the NFL is not necessarily that. It's a privately owned organization. But there is that in the business world as far as accounting standards. It's not exactly – it's one size fits all for the type of books that you're keeping and what you're submitting out there. And I don't know if they're going to have some sort of flimsy excuse like that and find their way around this. It seems unlikely, but that is an actual thing. It's not like you just have one accounting books and, all right, this is the ledger. This is where we're keeping everything. You do report and file different depending on who you're talking about and who you're presenting it to.
So if he doesn't lose the team after this, then clearly what we've been speculating for months, that he must have something really heavy on the league That's clearly got to be the case because everyone's looking at this going, it's one thing to do all of these other, have all these other, scandals or investigations or whatever throughout the course of your time as an owner. But then when you're stealing from your fellow owners, basically, and from season ticket holders and not being, truthful with what, how much you're making. Like, if he still is the owner of the Commandos after all this, dude, he's got to have something. Like, there's got to be something more here because everybody's looking at this as the death knell for Dan Snyder and his time. But I will say this. If he does have to sell the team, Jeff Bezos is going to be one of the first to try and bid on this team because he's from the area. I think he's the owner of the Washington Post, if I'm not mistaken. Bezos has got the money. We all know that, which means a crank shuttle to each game starring Jeff Bezos, which I think is going to be phenomenal for everybody.
Or maybe a crank stadium.
He's going to turn the Washington Monument into a crank.
That's a great point.
Blast off from there.
That is a great point. LaVar, what should they rename the stadium?
Crank Stadium.
It'll be crankstadium.com.
Yes. So there's that. So we will keep you posted on as to whether or not little Danny Snyder is the owner.
I'm just
of the
saying. I've been told by eyewitnesses that back in the day, that was how he was referred to. This little Danny Snyder.
That's kind of funny.